meeting for Monday, 2nd, 25 to order. First order of business is pledge of allegiance. Charles, if you would, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charles. Public forum. Looking to address in public forum on any item on the agenda.
Yep. Sit up here or?
Yeah, name and address for the record.
My name is Ann Street. I live at 72 Broad Street. I am currently the chairman of the Historic District Commission, and I would like to speak relative to agenda item 5.4, following up on a letter that we sent in January recommending or requesting the renomination of Prish Pierce and Teresa Buchanan to the Historic District Commission Board. They both currently serve on the board and are eligible under statute for a second term. Both bring academic and professional expertise to the Historic District Commission. They live in the district, which is one of the requirements. They've been vetted and recommended this time around by the Democratic Town Committee. Because we operate without professional staff, it's critically important that we have commissioners who bring that kind of expertise to the board. We don't get our motions written for us and handed to us. We have to make them up. We evaluate the applications on site. And so it's important we rely on our commissioners for that. So I would respectfully request that you add Teresa's name to the action that you're going to take regarding Prish, and that you reappoint both of them to the Historic District Commission.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Hearing none. No. Online? No. Okay. Not doing minutes because both Tracy and Karen were on vacation the last time, and the recording did not take place. So we're in the process of configuring those minutes based on my recollection, and we may need to count on you folks as well.
Okay.
Help with that.
Sure.
Intelligence is acting up a little bit. Which is why we're switching.
Three.
Which is why,
Hopefully.
which is why item 3 is very appropriate. Consider to take possible action on purchase of new board meeting software. So, Tony and Grace, if you would please.
See, we failed at that.
Tracy did most of the work on this, so
Okay.
she gets the credit with the research.
You have a memo I sent you all. Guess just answer any questions that you have.
And I want to thank some of you for having gone through it and vetted it. Sue, you found it to be
Fine, yeah.
significantly improved over what we had.
Yeah, we got good feedback.
We also got feedback from the Board of Finance as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
I think maybe like four
yeah,
or five people.
4 or 5 members checked it out. It was helpful to have that test site so that we could all play with it before we.
See any challenges with switching over at all?
We had a meeting with the guy. It doesn't seem like it.
The only, they're not gonna do any migration of the older documents, but it's not gonna be that big of an issue because I have them already in my folders on my desktop. I'll just put them in the library. And so if you wanna go back to look at old ones, they'll be there. Yeah.
And you did look at a couple alternatives.
Yeah, they're roughly the same.
Yeah.
One didn't have an app, right?
Yeah, one didn't have an app and the other didn't have the minutes builder, which is really helpful when you're taking motions during the meeting, and it really creates the minutes, so I don't have to do it from scratch, which is great. So
I do like the app version, like when Board Pack, which I don't know why they didn't just rebrand that. It just makes it easier to, as an IT person, to deploy to the the iPads instead of using a website. That's what Diligent is now. You're using their website and, oh my God,
And the login will be easier. You don't have to put your email and password. It's a 4-digit
you can do a
code.
code.
So it'll be much easier.
Is there any way that the all volunteer commissions, as we were just discussing, can make use of something like this for their minutes or their agendas?
Like the other commissions, if we
Oh.
could use it. I mean, we can look into that. We'd probably have to pay
It's
a per
cost,
user
yeah,
fee.
yeah.
Oh,
300
Oh.
per user,
300 per
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
but I mean, if we did it for maybe just the secretaries,
yeah.
just so they could, yeah, but they wouldn't be able to deploy it out to everybody, but yeah.
So the software pricing methodology is by seat, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
In the old days, when I was in the technology business, we had basically enterprise
Mhm.
platform purchasing, which gave you virtually unlimited number of users. Do they have something similar to that?
Do we ask that? I don't think they do.
I don't think they do. The ones we've looked at, board pack used to charge us per person. One of the other ones we looked at, it was per board,
Okay.
which isn't the best because if you have multiple people on different boards, then you're kind of paying double. But no. When the new company took over, Diligent, they kept the similar price to board pack and they let us have unlimited users.
I think they're gonna change.
And I think
At some
from
point.
other people who use it, they're very expensive, and I think they're just keeping it low for us right now. But it also just doesn't work well, so it's kind of pointless, but yeah. All the other ones we looked at, it was either per person or per board.
Is that annually?
Yeah. And did you mention to him about the Board of Ed?
Oh, Linda reached out to the Board of Ed. They've been trying, since we had board pack, they've been trying to convert Board of Ed over, but they've been reluctant. But I got her a price with the new company and she's gonna take it back to them. They may be joining, so then we can partner together, save some money.
How quickly can we affect a transition?
Today?
He's ready to go.
Today.
Yeah, he's ready to go. I don't think it would take that long.
He's been asking when,
Yeah.
you know.
Hopefully by the next meeting.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
If we don't get the Board of Ed, not that they say no, but if they're not ready to say yes and we switch over, can we
Mhm.
ask him to keep that pricing in mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he would.
Okay.
I mean, it started, what did it start at? 24,000 or something.
Yeah,
Remember?
he came down.
And then he cut it in half, like right when I said, you gotta come up with a
Yeah.
better price. He said, how about 12,000
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
Right.
And I was like, well, that was quick.
Yeah. But yeah, they'll keep the same price for Board of Ed.
Is this an independent company or are they associated with anybody else?
No, I think that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're independent.
They do.
just like Board Pack was.
Yeah.
It's called On Board. Is that the name?
On board.
Are any other towns using it or any, I mean, did you?
We didn't look at that. No, we just tested a
Research
bunch
the
of
different
them,
companies.
other
Yeah.
companies, and that company did a, Google search, top 5.
But we did read the online reviews and they were good,
Yeah.
but we didn't reach out to,
No references?
no.
No, I mean, we could still do that.
Yeah.
There's been that many problems with Diligent.
Yes,
Not just on our end, but even users. Board of Finance has been,
stuff not loading.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Is
yeah.
that still doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work with the iPads at all. At all. The desktop is better, laptops are better, but it's
I wanna
just
make
not
use of
what
the
we need.
hardware we got,
Yeah.
Anything further?
How does this price compare to Diligent?
It's higher. But we're thinking, this is just a guess, that Dillinger is kept this cost low. And at some point, they're gonna change and they're gonna say, hey, look, you,
Alright, so it's,
It's similar to board pack, the per person charge. We just added a lot of new people when we got Diligent because it was open users. So if we were being charged for the additional users similar to board pack, we'd be paying the same amount as the new company.
it's like 38.
Because we added
already.
another like eight to 10 users.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
PD is on there. and-
Yeah.
I hate to be a pain about this. It sounds fine and good.
Yeah.
But in relation to the reference thing, we kind of just made another person who was here a couple weeks ago. We said, please get references. So I think we should be consistent. And if you need us to vote yes on it, I'm willing to vote yes with the proviso that we get some references. I just think it's
Yeah,
a
no
practice
problem.
that we're trying to encourage people to do.
Yeah, we could get a few call.
You know, it's not
In the way you chose it, you just Googled and got the top 5 and went through those and
We just went online and
Yeah.
saw like what they had, what they
Yeah.
offered, if they had a,
my only concern to Sandy's point is, you know, anybody in IT knows Google can be driven.
no,
Sales
this was
team.
actually AI. I did it with AI.
Well, that's what I mean. So they can fill it in with anything they want. So a
They
little
could.
concerned about a Google search versus
Actual references,
actual users, frankly, because they could feed anything they want into all that.
Right.
I can tell you, I called a few diligent users and they hate it.
Well, I'm not arguing.
Other
I could tell you
bigger
2 or 3
companies.
that love it. So I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's a much more secure system. That's why it's so
Right.
problematic.
I just think the helpful thing with us with this was also they gave us a test site, so we've been
Okay.
using it, we've been,
Alright.
you know, so I think that's also.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be negative. I just
Yeah,
need
no.
to get
You
a
didn't
feel
try-
for where we're.
Did you try
you
using
got
it?
To get
You didn't try
references.
using it, right? But you had no glitches at all? Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely
Yeah,
reach out
well-
to some references. It's not a problem. I'm sure he has some he can give us.
Well, it's pretty clear that once the new company took over the platform, service levels have become challenging, particularly access. Basically, it seems as if they don't have significant bandwidth available in order for multiple users to be accessing the system at the same time. As to the references, I'd be happy to do it that way. But having been on the sales side of the equation, you never submit a reference that isn't a positive customer that's going to say the right thing. Unless you did, unless.
That's true too, unless I did my own certain, yeah.
And I agree with that. You know, my only point would be, if they do give you, it'd be neat to know if there were any other towns, municipalities, and or just how generally it's used, 'cause, you know. I have no problem that you've already, you know, done your hands-on legwork and that type of thing, and I have confidence in that. It's just, you know, I'm a little, be neat to know that somebody else is using it and what they're experiencing.
Karen does, she could do like, where she sends out something.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to see if anyone, and if not, that's fine. We'll have to find somebody outside of Connecticut
Right.
to, see what they think. But like you said, if we ask him, he's not gonna give us one that doesn't like it.
That's true.
Well, that was my question. I mean, you said they're an independent enterprise. I mean, how big of an operation? Are they gonna be in business next year? Or are they just going through the cycle of developing some software to sell off in a few years? That's-
The sales guy did say that they're growing like a lot.
Yeah.
I forget, he gave us numbers, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not down on it enough to, you know, not support it and support you in your choice. A little more reinforcement would hurt, but to Sandy's point, it went okay, and so you can move forward with it based on no negative things that we should be aware
All right.
Okay.
Is that a motion, Charles?
of. Yes.
Second.
Second. Further comments or questions? Lou, anything on this or?
The diligent has been frustrating to say the least, so appreciate the efforts.
Okay.
All right.
Does work better on the desktops, by the way.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're going to be in the business of providing desktops for, no offense.
Yeah, no, I get it.
All right, we have a motion on the table. All in favor, Selectman Federici?
Aye.
Those in the room?
All right.
Aye, the motion carries. Thank you very much for
Thanks.
your work on it.
Thanks.
Item 4, discuss and take possible action to set a public hearing date for the Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority as a member municipality. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? Or you want me to do it?
I was just gonna say, I vote yes.
Is-
Um,
this-
Well,
okay.
you start and I'll jump in.
The Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority was created to help drive housing development throughout the state. As I think most of you have heard, we have not only Guilford, but throughout the state, there is a significant lack of housing at all layers of the stack, not just affordable housing. It's workforce housing, it's middle market housing. And the interesting numbers coming out of the state that there are over 90,000 vacant jobs in the state. Assuming for a moment that we are able to attract 90,000 people to move into the state, where would they live, right? So this was created, this quasi-governmental agency was created, I think, a year and a half ago to help drive economic development or housing development. They were granted originally, I think it was a $60 million funding level, and they're anticipating that is going to be in the budget that is probably being debated today up in Hartford. There are additional funds. There is a process by which you can apply for and get those funds. The first of which is we have to pass a resolution suggesting that we would like to be considered as part of it. There is subsequent activity that has to do with their review of our zoning codes relative to their ability to drive the kind of results that they would be looking for. There is no obligation on us doing the resolution or submitting the information or zoning information to this board for their review. But they may come back and say, okay, we think your zoning code will allow for kind of development we're looking for and would be willing to fund. They may come back and say, no, that may not work. You may need to make the following tweaks in order to meet the objectives of the funding. And there's also potential for creating zones, like an enterprise zone, for lack of a better term. That term was used in economic development for a long time. So this would give us the opportunity to have them review our code, safer boards, and also guide us in terms of setting up these areas where we want to drive housing. And a lot of it has to do with proximity to transportation and creating
And town center.
and town centers, right? So those are the two areas. Now, the term town center, we had David Corris, who's the executive director of this organization, and 2 weeks ago for
He came to the Affordable Housing Commission meeting, spoke at length about what his agency could help with if we qualify. So just passing this resolution just gets us into the queue of towns that could potentially be eligible for some financial incentives.
Why is a public hearing required for us to apply to join this?
because they want community engagement, community involvement,
right.
and know that the community will support it as opposed to the community, the leaders saying, we want to do this. We don't have public support for it, and it turns into a bloody battle relative to your zoning
Okay.
and any changes.
So it's a requirement of the
Of participation.
authority, not anything in our charter.
No,
or
it has
bylaw.
nothing to do with our
Okay.
charter.
All right, and then who makes the actual, then we would vote to make the
We'd come
actual
back.
decision on whether
Whether to
to.
sign it
This.
and start to apply for it. Or, that's assuming they come back and say, everything's fine with your zoning code. Then we'd be able to make that decision at that point, once we establish the town center area as well as the transportation related areas, which are typically train stations, right? Not necessarily solo bus stops along Route 1.
Good, yeah, good. It's a first step. I mean, it kind of touches on the concept of the state telling us what we can do as far as zoning goes. And that's not an area that I have no knowledge of to be
Agreed.
comfortable with.
Agreed. And again, this is opt in at every stage of the way. You can opt out of this thing at point. So this is, if you want the opportunity to get some state money, these are the strings that are
Start
attached.
here. Yeah.
All right, so is there a motion to set the, hold on. Wait a second, I just lost it. Bear with me. This is why we're doing diligence, right? We're getting, um,
I can read it.
yeah, would you please?
Okay, so we want a motion to discuss and take possible action to set a public hearing date of July 2025 at 8:30 at Town Hall and via Zoom to receive input on joining the Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority as a member municipality.
That's a motion. Second. Any further comments or questions? Thank you, Sandy. Larry, try your minds, Selectman Federici?
Aye, July 7, yeah.
Those are
That's our,
It's our meeting.
regular meeting. yeah.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, item 5, appointments and resignations. 5.1, act on a resignation received from Wendy Dockery from Economic Development.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
with regret and thanks.
With regret, thanks. Any further comments or questions? Let me try your minds, Selectman Federici.
Aye,
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. 5.2, act on a resignation received from Don Kowalski from the Shellfish Commission. I'll make that motion with appreciation and regret. Is there a second?
second.
Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Selectman Federici?
Aye,
5.3, act on a recommendation to elevate Mark Wasserman. Second. What's that?
That's right, I have it.
yeah, the attachments are a little out of sync.
yeah, the
Yes.
attachments are on.
Out of sync, you know. Normally I have a paper copy, but not today. Trey?
There is under, the next one down under 5.4, there's just a summary list.
There it is. At to regular status, regular member of the EDC. Mark Wasserman. Is there a motion?
Make
So
a
moved.
motion.
Further comments or questions?
Need a second?
Yes. Second. Second. Further comments or questions? Let me try your minds, Selectman Federici.
Aye,
Those in the room?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. 5.4, act on a recommendation to reappoint Patricia Pierce as alternate on HTC. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. So let me try your mind.
I do
Any
have a
comments?
question. Before voting on this, I would like to have some clarity into the questions that were brought up during
All right,
comment.
we've got a motion and a second, so this is an appropriate time for comments, right?
Yes.
As I think you all are aware, we have purposely been considering not appointing some individuals or reappointing them until such time as we had the opportunity to have some conversations relative to the HDC and the town being more closely aligned with regard to certain properties. In particular, that property is 52 Church Street. And the alignment is along appropriate use and also impact to the community cost-wise, while honoring some of the intentions and the statutes regarding HDC's commission. We have seen some evidence recently. Sandy has been participating along with Janice Blasiak, Todd, and Teresa in a subcommittee that has been working to come to some kind of resolution with the building adjacent to the community center for what this board has determined was the highest and best use of that property, which was additional parking for much needed additional parking for community center visitors, particularly our seniors who are often walking significant distances or having to rely on the transportation. So I've been given the assurances from Sandy and from Todd Fanciola on our side and Janice that there appears to be the appropriate spirit in terms of willingness to work with the considerations that this will impact our community financially and potentially financially as well. So I've become comfortable with it, and I think that it's probably fair to say I've had some support from this board relative to who we appoint based on a willingness to work cooperatively with the town to achieve the intentions and goals that the town has. And remember, we are the elected officials in this community. And we have the ability to set those kind of priorities and agenda. And at this point, I feel more comfortable that we are going to have productive and cooperative arrangement with the HDC. Like quote Anna, or maybe not accurately, we were at kind of sort of a crossroads. We were going to be landlords who weren't taking care of a property, and the HCC was going to be viewed as obstinate in terms of doing anything. So after some conversations, we decided to put together a little working group. The working group seems, at least as it's been reported to me.
Yeah, and one point, as you pointed out, elected officials, there's a whole fiscal responsibility aspect to this as well as the best use. And there's also a need for storage, which was always mentioned, but parking was the paramount. And parking still is with the storage in consideration. But, and the house has historic roots, so.
So I understand and agree with everything you've expressed about the use of that particular building. But I'm interested in timing and the process and whether, so we have something to act on, which is specifically reappointing someone as an alternate. How does that affect Mrs. Buchanan and her seat, and what's the timing of that? Does this preclude? Because here we have someone who's been endorsed by the Democratic Town Committee and by the actual commission, and someone I've known personally for decades. So I would like to know
Is
how
there
that
some other
affects her seat.
endorsement? Because the attachment doesn't include the second person.
No,
No, it doesn't.
we could add that to the agenda.
But are they endorsed by the?
Yes, they
Both.
both.
So if we reappoint Ms. Pierce, which is what is before us to act on,
Correct.
does that affect Mrs. Buchanan?
We just
No,
haven't
no.
reappointed
No.
Teresa yet.
Okay.
It
Let's-
doesn't knock her out. It's
Okay.
it's two separate things.
Okay.
And let us recall for a moment that the state statutes are you serve until you replace.
Yes,
We have not replaced either of them
okay,
specifically for the hope that this is the kind of resolution we would eventually get. And that theoretically can go on in perpetuity based on the state statutes. However, it's at this point that we're prepared to move forward with it.
okay. So Mrs. Buchanan stays in her seat unless we appoint someone else into that seat. And this, what's on the agenda does not affect that.
And in the spirit of good faith, I would entertain a motion at the appropriate time to add Teresa's to this list.
At the appropriate time, I would be delighted to make that motion.
Probably after, what is it, 5.5 or
Right, whenever.
whatever.
So we need to take a vote on.
Yeah, hold on a second. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the Patricia Pierce's reappointment as an alternate to the HDC.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Selectman Federici?
Aye.
Thank you, Lou. Okay, 5.5, act on a resignation received from Eric Howellpower from the Guilford Lakes Golf Commission. That resignation. So, is there a motion?
So,
Second.
Any comments or questions? Let me try your minds. Selectman Federici.
Aye.
Is it a room?
Aye.
No? Aye.
Aye.
No.
I'm a little confused about the letter, though. It says I received the attached application to fill Eric's seat, but I don't see it. There's a letter from the chair. Is there?
That's the
I
next
believe
one.
that's-
The next one.
That's the next one
Yeah.
up. Andrew Wallach.
You broke them up. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
All right. 5.6, act on a recommendation to appoint Andrew Wallach to the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission.
so
Is there
Second.
and a second? Further comments or questions? Let me try your minds. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
those in the room?
Aye.
All right. Is there a motion to add 5.7, which would be to reappoint Teresa Buchanan to the full seat on the Historic District Commission? Is there a motion?
Yes, I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Uh, Any comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
those in the room?
Aye.
Aye. Item 6, request for use of town property, act on a request from Yale New Haven to use the green for their annual Smilo Cancer Hospital Closer to Free ride. And that is on September 6th, and that's pretty much a full day, 8:30 to 3. And I use the southern part of the green. And last year there was a concern over where they had located the facilities, the porta potties. So there was an accommodation made, and they were brought closer to the southern end of the green as opposed to the center of the green. So
this
So
is, I'm sorry, does the Green Committee get involved with this or not? Or just comes
I
to
think
us?
we ran this by the Green Committee a while ago.
Okay.
And quite honestly, even though we use them as advisory, I dare say I wouldn't vote against this.
Right. I mean, I know that, but this has been going on for years.
Years,
I just happened to ask the question. I don't know why.
All right, motion? We have
So moved.
a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Let me try your minds. Selectman Federici,
Aye.
those in the room?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Committee reports?
There's gonna be another Affordable Housing Commission community vacation now. It's okay with me, but no, I mean, a conversation on, give me one for 1 second. Tuesday, June 10th at 7 o'clock, at the community center. And they're gonna show some interesting videos about, I believe, housing, types of affordable housing in Connecticut, in other towns. Some of us have seen it, but this is gonna be for the general public at 7 o'clock. That's all.
That's it. Just quickly, I think, like, probably should have talked about this earlier with the Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority. I think there was unanimous support for that, for us engaging, and becoming.
Yes, even at the commission level.
At the
Yes.
commission,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's all. Okay, correspondence.
This is maybe not correspondence so much as old business, but,
Well, that's next up, so go ahead.
oh, okay, you got it then.
Old
Let's
business.
talk about tomorrow night's meeting, right? There's a public hearing on Sawmill.
Yep.
Okay.
You want to talk a little bit about that? or
No,
not?
just pointing out that there's another hearing tomorrow night.
Right.
It's here at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
6:30, I thought.
6:30.
6:30.
That's
okay.
sorry.
About how long do you think that will run?
Depends on what kind of participation we have from the community. It should not, I
And
don't
it's also
anticipate.
too past that. I was called the CBGB grant, but EBGBs.
Community,
We have to have it at night. I mean, it's officially has to happen in an evening meeting.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the community, for those who aren't familiar, the community development block grant is what we're applying for. We are intending to apply for pre-development work for the potential affordable housing development on the sawmill parcel that is owned by the town,
Right.
which similarly to what we've done with the Woodruff property, would be to donate that property to the selected vendor. For those, you may recall that we had applied for and received $1 million from CDBG application in 2023. But shortly after receipt, because we weren't shovel ready, the State Department of Housing, who administers the CDBG funds in the state of Connecticut, asked that we forego that $1 million in pre-development work so that they could support another program that had been underfunded. we agreed to that. And the quid pro quo was that we were allocated $1 million in state bond funding from the Department of Housing's allocation. So this is an opportunity for us to see if we can get another bite at the apple, because technically we never received a community development block grant for this project.
Right.
And what would be really nice about this is if we were to get the CDBG application, which passed muster one time, that there'd be about $2 million of pre-development funding available to a developer. So when they package that with what the developer can get directly from the state in terms of housing loans, this will be a very attractive project for developers to participate in. We anticipate getting an RFP for a preferred developer out on the street by the end of this month. We've engaged a consultant by the name of Andrew Woodstock, who did the original CDBG application for us. So he's dusting off the old one that's in his files, but he has also agreed to put together the RFP for a preferred developer for that property.
I have separate old business.
You do?
Yeah.
What would you do?
And I don't remember what the date was, but it was at least a month ago where we had a discussion about use of the green by the Gilmore people. And we had some questions about it, so we decided to tentatively hold their date, but we gave them, we pushed it out 60 days so that John could potentially answer some of our questions. So I just wondered, I couldn't remember when the 60 days is, coming up.
I think we're within the window.
You think we're still all
Yeah.
right? Is
John,
John
we're still
on?
within
Oh, I'm
the-
sorry, John. I didn't know you were sitting there.
Hi, good morning. I don't have an update on that, but I will check with them today.
Thank you, Chris.
But yeah, it kind of just, our last discussion, they were kind of shying away from utilizing the green
Okay,
this time around, but I'll confirm.
It was related to the cost of, I believe, the tent, right, John?
Tent and security,
And parking.
parking.
Because parking is.
but they're not shying away from coming to Guilford, but they're not just the fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds, correct.
As long
Pat-
as nobody else wants the use of the green, we can continue
May I-
to.
May I
So-
comment?
In a minute, Pam, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I was just saying, as long as no one else wants the use of the green for that day, there's no
Right.
reason why we can't just.
Continue
wait
to
and
hold
see.
it, you mean?
Yeah.
Pam,
Yes, sorry to interrupt, but the last I understood with talking with the woman from Texas, she was thrilled at the new quote that I was able to get for her. So I was under the understanding that she was thrilled about moving forward with the green.
but there was still, as John mentioned, there was still concern they would have to hire full-time security in the evenings,
Yep.
overnight stuff. And then there was, what was the other? Parking.
And the electrical, there were gonna be issues with that, so I'm emailing her right now, we'll get an answer.
Okay, just wanted to give my 2 cents.
No, thank you, Pam, as always. All right, any other old business? New business? No? All right, public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board? Deb, come on up.
Debbie Denise's 18 Sugarloaf Road. I wonder if for the meeting that they will be having on the affordable housing, that they might be able to either do a robo phone call or put a sign up at the end of the green. I don't know how much that cost to put that sign up when we're coming into town that flashes that there's a meeting or there's a vote. So I don't know the expense of that. That my reason being, I think more people would be aware of it. Like, even though I might have read something on Facebook or seen something, I just think that the more people in the community that could be notified of these meetings, it really helps. The other meeting that I think that is super important is that, I guess, on July 7th at 8:30 a.m. And I think it's a lot, it's really hard for people to work to either do a Zoom or come out for the meeting. And that was on, I guess, Connecticut Municipal Development Authority. So even on that, if maybe people could be notified somehow that maybe they could send in emails, or if they can't get to that meeting or they can't comment at that meeting, that we want to know, like you said, you want community input and community backing for these, then they have to be aware of it. So I think that would be really helpful. And in this, I'd like to also, and I know we're not supposed to ask questions, but how many projects for affordable housing in the town of Guilford do we have either going on or in the works? I hear about across from the rock pile, I hear about Sawmill Road, I hear about down near the tree. Like, how much of this are we going to do in our town? And the reason I say that is because, we do have issues with septic and water and different things. And the more we have of people using that, I'm just concerned about issues. I know when we moved here, it was 45 years ago, and we're in North Guilford, but it was 4-acre zoning. And, we got 3 gallons per minute and went down over 420 feet. And since then, we've had to refrac it because we've actually run out of water. And so my concern always is, and I do know part of Guilford is on a water system. So septics are always an issue, and we think about pollution and we think about the environment and how much of this are we going to do in our town. I am also concerned about government overreach in the instance of the Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority. And I remember years ago them saying that in the towns in the Northeast, we're all our little bit of communities and we all want our individual high school, but sometimes it would be better to do regional type things. We'd save money, and we might be able to get more for that. So I understand that we're all these little towns, but we somehow need to also protect our integrity of our town. So I think that's what I really was wanting to say, that I feel people need to be aware of a lot more things that are going on, a lot more different ways. Whether it's signs at the green or robocalls, or somehow let them know that even if they can't make these meetings, that their input is valued and that you want emails or response. Somehow you want a response, even if we can make, I don't know, some type of an area where people could call to respond on these things and you could get their opinion. I don't know how that would work, but thank you.
Just so you know, we get plenty of folks who express their opinions by calling directly into the selectman's office.
Oh, well, that's good.
There's no
Yeah.
shortage, including ironically,
Yeah.
complaint about the use of our robocall, as you mentioned it, on the plan of conservation and development. The individual did not think it rose to the level of importance to broadcast throughout the community, because I think there's a bit of misunderstanding. There are mass notification systems which are for emergencies, and those are funded by the state, which our public safety entities has access to. We pay independently for ours. And so the issue is, we've talked about this at different times, what's appropriate. We've also been accused of using it for political purposes,
Right.
which is a dangerous thing to enter into. But clearly, this board could, and I've actually talked to this board about when we utilize it, when it's most appropriate to utilize it, and how we utilize it. So, and Deb, I know we're unexpectedly very short meeting today, so I will give you a little background on affordable housing. Pure affordable housing projects, there is only one currently underway, and that is over at the Woodruff property. That will be 16 units of housing.
At the most,
At the most.
it's 12 to 16 apartments.
Your concerns are well founded, particularly as it relates to being able to create the density needed to effectively move the needle on our statewide objectives towards percentage of affordable housing. Your concerns are well founded, but they're also well founded for non-affordable housing development.
Oh, totally. Yes.
So, and that's where, the challenges of our geology, as well as the fact that we do not have sewers and not everyone has access to Connecticut Water Company, creates challenges for doing those kind of developments. The one across from DDR, the rock pile is
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
known as, right, is 164 units or 62 units of housing. There will be an affordable component of that
Right,
based on our zoning code requirement for inclusionary zoning, and that will yield approximately, I think it's 21 units within. They're not going to be set aside or different. They'll just be priced differently in terms of the market. And there are, projects going on all over town that have been approved. The one up off of State Street, 25 townhouses.
Oh, yeah.
The condos down on Whitfield Street. There are 2 projects that were approved by planning and zoning a couple of years ago for condominiums on Route 1 up by the Red Roof Inn on the southern side of Route 1 west. And those are, I think there's probably 70 or 80 units that have already been approved. So your point's well taken. It's not just affordable housing, though. It's all housing, and that's where it becomes challenging for developers because of the density issue. The one across from DDR, that will be a fully engineered septic system, very expensive system. And the question is whether or not developers are willing to do that and can make money doing it because of the number of units they can get out.
thank you.
Where exactly does our percentage stand with gold?
2 point something.
Really,
We're towns like us are supposed to have 10% of our housing stock.
10%, and we're at
Qualified
2
for, and we're 2 and change.
Even with all these
So we're
things
nowhere
that
near
go on.
Right.
the,
Yeah.
we'll, may never get to 10%, but we're just trying to get a little more than 2%.
How do we compare to the other communities in the state?
Theoretically,
we're
We're
similarly,
considered-
we're similarly situated.
we're higher than some. We look good at 2%, which is kind of pathetic, but that's
Well, against
Yeah,
against our
nobody-
peer group,
against our peer group.
not against the New Havens, the
Right.
Yeah.
Waterburys and
Huge.
Naugatucks, the
Yeah.
Hamdens. And again, it's the challenge here is there's a great line by Kinky Friedman, right? It was a entertainer who said, "At 50, you have the face you deserve. At 375, we have the community we deserve because we made decisions collectively over the years as to 4-acre zoning in North Guilford and not doing sewers. We have largely built what we have. And the other problem with housing development is most of the prime locations have already been developed. And those that do not have significant geological challenges as well.
And the interesting thing about the apartments that are being constructed across from, I like to say Guilford Commons.
But it hasn't been approved yet.
Well, it hasn't been approved,
Right.
it proposed. They were proposed, they're a private developer. It's not a town initiative. They're going through all the rules and regulations that they need to do. But because of changes in our zoning, we suddenly were able to, part of their permissions were either to pay a percentage of funds into the Affordable Housing Trust if they chose not to make a percentage of their units affordable.
Yeah.
And then, but they chose to do that. So that's, I mean, that's the kind of thing we like, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
So that the town is not, we don't want to be in the business of the landlord of affordable housing,
Right,
but we're trying to encourage it in any way that we can. So those apartments that were coming, whether some of them were affordable or not.
Right, right,
Those of us on the housing commission, we think it's great.
right, right. One other thing, I just thought of it while I was here. I also, there are a lot of people that are on Simply Guilford and I noticed that you had the letter for the 100 trees on the town site. So that's another way maybe you could say, please, instead of doing the robocalls
Oh,
or
yeah,
if people have problems, maybe have someone, put out, this is a meeting, it's gonna be on such and such a date. If you can't make it, please send emails or call.
Thanks, Steph.
That's my concern.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
I'll just say thank you very much for your support.
Well, thank you. All right, nothing further on the agenda to attend to? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Non-debatable motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you all.